Today we're going to be showing you one of our classic finishes. It's going to be white with a dark stain top, and we're going to be showing you how to spray and how to take old antique furniture, make your own molds, and pour them in resin. I'm using DIY Salvation Solution. It's an all-natural primer and stain blocker. With DIY paint, you don't really need a primer on something like this because the paint's definitely going to stick. But you do need a stain blocker, especially when you're going white, because on older pieces, they have natural tannins in the wood that can cause bleed through. They also many times will have oils or greasy built up stuff that you just don't see even if you wash it. So 2 coats of this will really help avoid that. If you still have a little bit of bleed through after you paint and seal, you can go ahead and treat those spots.
So when we're doing work like this, we use amazing mold putty. You can find it at jamirayvintage.com. Works for a ton of different applications, and the molds are food safe up to 300 degrees. The instructions come on the side of the box. Just mix up 1 to 1 on both side A and side B, and you're ready to go. What I like to do is I'll scoop some out, and then I'll just mix it up into a ball. So there's side A, and then this is side B. 2 equal portions. Those look about the same size to me. We mush them together and just knead them until they're all yellow and there's no more white left. Now I've got a good bit of putty mixed together, and we're going to do this mold. The flatter it is on the bottom side, this is the bottom, the easier it will be to pour resin into your mold. We're going to use resin made by the same company, Amazing Casting Resin. Got a lot extra over here on this side. I need to fill in this area here a little more. Okay, so just rip that off, and then this will mold right down on over that piece there. Had quite a bit extra there. I'm going to put a little dab over here in the corner, and we'll let that dry. All right, on this side of the hopper on the sprayer, there's increments in ounces and milliliters up to 20, and there's a line. I'm gonna fill this up to 15 because I do 3 parts paint, 1 part water, and then on this DIY paint, because it's clay based, I do a little bit extra water. There's room in the top, it'll be okay.
If your paint's older or you're worried about clumps, be sure to use a strainer so that way you don't clog your machine. Best practice is to always use a strainer, although you can see that Zeb doesn't always do that.
I never use a strainer. These central pneumatic guns are cheap enough. I use them for 6 months and I get rid of them. I don't even wash them good.
What?
I don't.
I'm just trying to give these people the best information.
You can wash yours all you want, but it takes a lot of time. I don't have a lot of time. Okay, now I'm adding water up to that fill line. And then I've got what's equivalent of about 2 ounces, 3 ounces maybe. We'll call it 2 tablespoons. And I'm just gonna put that in the top there. Screw my lid on. Now I'm just gonna put my finger over the breathe cap and shake this up.
Over my kitchen island.
Over the kitchen island, it's all fine. If you guys want like a full-blown hardcore tutorial on every part of the gun and how it works, we have that. I'll drop the playlist in the link below. I've got cold weather spraying, I've got spraying top coats, we've got videos to cover all the things.
But it's kind of boring for those of you that have already seen it, so we're keeping this to a minimum.
Yeah.
Or to me, I have ADD, so I start listening to it, I'm like...
It's boring for Jamie. She's like, I know how to use the spray gun. Let's just go.
I am not. Maybe a little bit, but I keep a smile on my face like this.
Okay, this has been sitting for the allotted amount of time, and it peels up pretty easy. You can see I'm just grabbing it there and pulling the loose sides off. Then we'll get some resin mixed up. It's a pretty good impression of that. It is time to spray this. We've got the regulator on the air compressor set at 65 PSI, and I've got all my adjustments made on my gun. I like to max out the paint flow when I'm using any kind of clay or chalk type paint. It just helps it flow a lot smoother. It's typically a thicker paint anyway, and it'll spray on real nice. If you find that you've got thin coverage, best suggestion is to just let that dry, come back over it again with another layer. It just takes a few minutes, and if it's warm outside or in your garage or wherever you're spraying, it should dry out really fast because this is a really thin layer. We're using amazing casting resin. It does turn white when it hardens. We also have a clear option at jamirayvintage.com if you're interested in that. It's great for making jewelry and doing like table pours, all kinds of fun stuff. There is a side A and a side B, equal parts both sides. If you don't have equal parts, it won't set up, so that's really important. Combine them. It's gonna be in here kind of cloudy. Mix until it turns clear again. You can kind of see how it got milky. Just keep mixing till it goes clear. About a minute. You might have to mix for 60 seconds. Just keep stirring, scrape all the edges, get the bottom real good. Let's see how good my mold is. That's looking pretty good. If you've got some spots where it just won't run on your mold, you just get your stir stick. It's pretty thick. And you've got about a minute to work with it. I had some high spots here, so I'm just pulling the resin towards those so that it's all equal and even. Okay, it's been about 10 minutes. Let's peel this thing out, see what we get. You can let them sit longer. I find they're easier to demold if you take them out sooner than later. It looks like it peeled some of that stain because this had some on it from the original piece, some old flaky dirt or whatever, and that's totally okay because we're gonna repaint this anyway. You can still see it's still pretty pliable. If you get it while it's brand new, you could do all kinds of stuff with this and flex it and mold it around things. You can get them flexible in the microwave afterwards, about a minute or two in the microwave once they've set up. But just know that the longer they sit, the more brittle and hard they're gonna get, and they don't wanna flex as much.
The next thing we're gonna do now that Zeb made this is figure out where to put it. Initially I thought maybe I'd put it here, but I always feel like that's like a surefire sign to say, hey, I added this. So I thought, why don't I flip it upside down, put it where there's already a curve in the dresser, and then this will mimic the piece that we took it off, which is the top of the mirror, so it'll be top and bottom. I'm getting the very last bit of this construction adhesive out. So the nice thing is this dresser has a line where the veneer is, so you know that that's the center. So I'm just gonna line up the center of my mold with the veneer.
All right, now that it's on there, just a quick spray and we'll be done.
So I'm gonna sand this. We've got a little bit of overspray on here, which we knew would happen, which is why we saved this for last. We're not gonna sand it all the way down to the raw wood, but just enough that we'll get a nice even finish with the dark and decrepit. We've got our random orbital sander and our 220 sandpaper just to take this off.
Jamie's got this all sanded up. I've just got an old sock and DIY's dark and decrepit. We're going to essentially restain the top of this, but it also has a built-in sealer, so sometimes you can use it like a gel stain. I'm gonna start in the middle, because by the time I get over here to the edge, I don't want to go off over into that paint, so I'm going to be really careful to sneak up to that edge. We'll distress this and do all the things we usually do to it before we seal it. This is going to really clean up the top of this and make it shine again without a lot of effort. It took 3 minutes to sand all the excess overspray paint off, and we've got a nice clean edge here because we taped that up.
Right before we seal it, we like to distress it, so I'm just going to use my same 220 sandpaper and my orbital and get this distressed.
This is DIY Big Top. It's nice and thin. It's a really good liquid top coat. It's 16 ounces in this jar. You can strain it if you want. I don't. It's gonna lean back against the wall.
So we're putting out new hardware. The hardware that it had on was not original and really modern looking, so these mercantile cut pulls are really gonna tie it all together. You can pick up these pulls at jrvhome.com. So you'll notice that we're in Eliza's room because we decided to keep this one.
Yeah, this is a fun piece. It's going to be great for her as a work top and to do her makeup and whatever else she does in here.
She does a lot of crafting initially, we thought about a vanity with one chair, but she needs more storage. So we're gonna put this in here for right now, and someday if I ever find the perfect vintage antique crafting desk, then I'll sell this one and move that one in here.
Yeah, the girl has enough crafting supplies to rival my tool collection.
Hey, crafters gotta craft. We're gonna throw all the items that we use on the description box below. The paint and DIY products are at JamiRayVintage.com. You can pick up the mercantile pulls at jrbhome.com. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to Jami Ray Vintage for more
DIY.
The first person who watches this video and asks questions without reading the playlist, you can send $5 to 1245 West Main Street in Lehi, Utah. Just kidding. Don't put that in there.